Have you ever wondered why some people just won't stop cheating? Like they just won't stop. Maybe you've been cheated on. Maybe it was your spouse. Maybe it was your boo, your significant other, somebody you were in love with, you trusted, and you discovered that they had cheat on repeat. And they just keep playing the same song. And every time you turn around, they're cheating. And why won't they just stop? Why won't they quit? Well, today in this video, I want to talk with you about some of the reasons why some people won't stop cheating. They won't. And it's not that they can't stop, it's that they don't know that they can stop, and they don't know how to stop. And that doesn't give them an out. It doesn't make them not responsible. That can make them very irresponsible. But I want to talk to you about why won't your spouse or your boo or your partner stop cheating. Hey, I'm Rod Harrison. I am a marriage coach and I am a relationships expert. I live my life to help people have amazing relationships. And I spend a lot of time working with high-performing professionals in the world of sports and business and entertainment, trying to help people reduce relationship stress. And this cheating thing is stressful. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how much you're balling. I don't care how high you have climbed the social strata. It's painful. And you would like to reduce this stress and improve your connection, perhaps have a better relationship life. Well, that's who I help. That's what I do. And that's my honor. My hope is that this video will be helpful to you, no matter where you are, no matter what you're going through. And if you are dealing with someone who just won't stop cheating, this video is just for you. We got to talk about this. What is it about people who just keep like being serial offenders? They keep breaking your heart. They keep taking the life out of you. And after a while, when you've been cheated on repeatedly, especially by the same person, sometimes by multiple relationships over the course of your life, you can start to begin to grow kind of numb. Like, this is just the way it is. And I don't know if I'm gonna just have to deal with this. And some people finally get to a point like, I'm not dealing with this. This part right here, I'm not dealing with. Good for you. But let's talk about why it is that some people won't stop cheating. And I've met people on my journey of working with couples as a couples coach, working specifically with people in Major League Baseball and the NFL, and as I mentioned, in business, and these high-performing people who have difficulty, right? Is it their egos? That's a great question, right? Is it their egos, or they just think they're all of that and they can have what they want, they can do whatever they want? That's a contributing factor. But I don't know if that's the core factor. Is it that they got so much money, so much freedom, right? Because sometimes that can, just sort of be fuel for the fire. But I've met people who are not in these high-performing worlds making big money who cheat just as regularly. So what's really up? What's really going on? Let me give you some background. Now, first of all, you got to know that anyone who's repeating cheating, I can't even get the words out, who's repeating cheating, who's always cheating, they got cheat on repeat. The reason they got cheat on repeat is because they have an addiction. Booyah. You're like, okay, no, Sherlock, right? They got an addiction. Tell me something new. Let's just talk about this addiction because I think it's a really important part of what's going on. And addictions don't excuse your behavior. Hello. If your addiction is crushing you and crushing somebody else, then you know that the addiction is not a good thing. You can't excuse behavior because there is an addiction. But let's talk about what these addictions are often rooted in, because I think that'll give you some clarity. Now, let me give you this caveat. In this video, I'm not trying to make excuses for why people who cheat keep cheating and repeating the cheating. I'm not trying to give an excuse. I'm trying to help you understand what's really going on so that you have some clarity why your spouse or your partner keeps cheating, or why you might be the one who's got cheat on repeat. All right. So these addictions are often coping mechanisms for things that have happened in their lives and that have affected them down on the inside emotionally, I would add spiritually, right? That they're not aware of. They don't know how to address the pain. I've met people who have felt unloved in their childhood, who were perhaps abused, neglected, abandoned, and learned to soothe with sex, and oftentimes with pornography. But we won't get into pornography today, though that is a type of cheating. We'll have to do a video about that. But they decide, or they learn early, oftentimes preteens, early teens, they learn to start soothing themselves with sex. And this sex is really important because the sexual behavior is important because it does something that a lot of people don't realize. It's not just the physical pleasure, but there is a neurochemical experience that everybody who has sexual intercourse and intimacy, sexual behavior, that happens. These neurochemicals are released in our brains, and they're powerful they're powerful neurochemicals. Let me get the words out of my mouth. They're powerful. You got to understand, right? Like more powerful than some of the drugs on the street are these neurochemicals that are released in a person's brain. And when you start releasing these neurochemicals at age 11, 12, 13, and so on, and even in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, right? When you release these neurochemicals, the pleasure from them tell your brain, go do that again, and do that some more, and do it this way, and do it that way, right? And so these addictions begin to shape the person. So you could have met somebody who you didn't even know was addicted. You just thought, this was our relationship. This is why you don't want to be sleeping with people before you're married. Boom, shakalaka, boom. I know y'all don't agree with that. That's cool. I'm cool with that. If you don't want to hear me mention that, right, that's cool. But let me just tell you, if you don't sleep with somebody before you marry them, you have more time to discover who they really are and who you really are and what's really up under the hood. All right, but I'm not going to get into that. I want you to focus on these neurochemicals that are released: dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin, right? All of these neurochemicals, these are just three of the primary ones, are released. And dopamine is released, and it's a pleasure drug, right? It's a pleasure chemical. Oh, I feel so amazing. Come on, y'all. That felt so amazing. That was amazing. That's what that neurochemical is all about. Oxytocin and vasopressin, they're really central to how we bond. Like moms, when they deliver babies, right? They release these neurochemicals, oxytocin and vasopressin, so they're bonding with the baby, especially if the baby is feeding on breast milk. It's to bond with. And so when people are having cheating relationships, right, they get hooked. Did you know this stuff? Maybe I'm telling you something you already knew, right? But I'm trying to tell you that it's hard for people to stop who are hooked because they are addicted. And by the way, addictions never travel in singles, like alone. Addictions usually travel in twos and threes from what I have experienced in my work with people, right? And so they can, if you're addicted to sex, you're going to probably be addicted to pornography. Oftentimes, people will be addicted to, some recreational drug or alcohol. Oftentimes, I found, in my work with clients, they'll be addicted to gambling, right? These things go together because it's all about the rush. It's about the pleasure centers being satiated, right? And they go together. And when sex is an addiction, it's difficult to stop because it makes you feel so good. And so people get to a point where, in order to anesthetize pain, remember I said this is a coping strategy. And so when people are trying to anesthetize pain, they turn to the stuff that makes them feel good so they don't address the real pain in their lives. So that's one of the reasons why people won't stop. Let me tell you what is also going on in the background. Oftentimes, people won't stop because they're trying to deal with issues of esteem. I don't care how good they look. I don't care how much money they got. I don't care how many people call their name. When you feel small inside, you go do things on the outside to make you feel better, even if only temporarily for the moment, so that you can feel better about yourself. But it doesn't fix what's happening on the inside. But oftentimes, people who cheat a lot are people who, even though they may look like they got life by a thread or whatever. I don't know what the saying is, right? They have small self-esteems, even though they walk around like, hey, I'm all of this, I'm all of that. Girl, look at me, I'm doing it. No, they really got low self-esteem. And so they keep jumping into people's beds trying to make themselves feel better, even if it is to say, I'm in charge and I'm in control and I got this and I'm going to do this my way. Nah, it doesn't work. But people keep going back to what makes them feel good. And sometimes people are on a search for identity. Can I throw that in there? Similar to this whole idea of insecurity, right? They're looking for their identity. And when they're with people that they're not committed to, except for, these affairs, they can be somebody that they can't be when they're not in the affair. And so they're trying to find themselves, and they find people who accept them for who the person thinks they are, and celebrating them for who they want to be, right? This is all about an ego problem, an ego issue, not an ego in the classic sense of a person's got a big ego, but it's a way that people want to be known. That's what the ego is about. A way they want to be seen. They want to be seen as a champion. They want to be seen as somebody extraordinary and special. And so they can go and play the role and get celebrated in that cheating situation, trying to boost their esteem and trying to recover their sense of identity. This is not an exclusive list, but I hope that this is giving you some help. Hey, before we get too far, I got a great resource I want to tell you about. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today right here on my channel. I'm glad you stopped by. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to add some value to your life, to encourage you, to give you some insights that will be helpful to you. And I want to share with you a gift. This is a tool, a resource. It's really a guide that I created called The First 5 Steps. This is my guide to help anyone who has suffered the atrocious, traumatic pain of being cheated on. It's what I call the tsunami effect. This is what happens when somebody you trusted has been unfaithful. So once you download the guide, you can just click on the link in the description. I'll give you the first 5 steps. This is what to do now that you've discovered that there's been cheating. And so whether it's you or someone that you know, you should grab this guide for them, send it to them so that they can get clear about what they should do right now. Because oftentimes the overwhelm and the anxiety And all of those things start to kick in, and it's difficult to make decisions. And oftentimes people make decisions that they regret. And I don't want you or anyone that you know to be living with regret after you discovered that there was cheating. So grab the guide, it's free to you. It's what I call the first 5 steps, right? What to do once you've discovered cheating or infidelity. All right, hey, let's get right back to the video. All right, so is this making sense to you? Thanks for hanging in. I hope it's helpful to you. Let's talk about this thing called narcissism. Like maybe my spouse won't stop cheating because he or she is just an outright narcissist. And yes, that's probably true too. That's a big part of it. Let me say it can be a big part of it, but I want to talk to you about narcissism, narcissism in a little bit different way, because a lot of times we hear the word narcissism, we're like, yeah, I knew he was a narcissist. I knew she was not just a selfish narcissist. I like to use the term narcissistic shaping because our brains are some powerful organs. Let me tell you, and they have the ability to sort of be shaped and reshaped, molded and remolded so that neurons fire in patterns, right? We talk about wiring and firing of neurons in our brains. And when a person is addicted to sex and they are cheating and repeating the cheating, they have shaped their brains in a way that makes them very narcissistic in their behaviors and their presentation. I know somebody's having a eureka moment right now. You're like, oh, snap. Has this dude been in my crib? Did you know? How did you know? Like, nah, I ain't no genius. I just know how the brain is made to function, at least a little bit. So this thing that I call narcissistic shaping is what happens the more the person pursues the satisfaction of the pleasure centers of the brain, where those neurochemicals are released, the more they become hell-bent on satisfying those pleasure centers. And so the more they do it, the more they gonna do it. And so they keep doing it because they want to satisfy themselves. And satisfying themselves without regard for who they're hurting makes them concerned about nobody but themselves, or at least mostly concerned about themselves. It's sort of a primary pursuit, right? Take care of me first. And so they become very narcissistic in their orientation because their brain wiring has been shaped to pursue only and firstly, the satisfaction of themselves. This is what you're dealing with. If you got somebody in your life, or if you're the person who keeps going back to the empty well of cheating and infidelity, it's because your brain has been wired to keep pursuing the pleasure. And that's why you keep hurting people. That's why people keep getting hurt. That's why people don't understand, like, why do you keep doing this to me? True story. I worked with a couple, and one spouse discovered atrocious levels of this behavior. And the one spouse who was cheating said, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I've never done it. Only to discover it was still happening. And then to discover it was still happening. And imagine the repeat trauma of the spouse who was being cheated on. Another couple I was working with, and this was the same story. And then finally, the husband who had been doing the cheating said, I got to go get some help and deal with this, because he realized that so much of the pain that he developed and harbored and carried with him throughout his childhood and into his professional career had been unresolved. And he's like, man, I can't believe I did this to my wife. And now she has started cheating. That's going to be in the next video. You don't want to miss that one, right? When should I cheat because my spouse cheated on me? What do I do? What's going on? So But he realized that he was becoming very narcissistic in his behavior. And so now he has gotten some support. He's been in one of our groups. He's gotten therapy, and he's growing to be much more um, emotionally aware and sensitive, and spiritually aware and sensitive to the damage he was causing, not only to his marriage and his family, but to himself. And what I'm trying to tell you is he would not stop for years, but he has now stopped because he's dealing with some of the work that's necessary. I'm going to give you one final reason why perhaps the person who has cheated on you, or you, if you are the cheater, and there's no shade, there's no judgment. Like, we all do things we shouldn't do. Listen, I promise you, I have made my share of mistakes. I have done things that I wish I had not done. I thank God for forgiveness. I thank God for restoration. I thank God for insights about me so that I can deal with what's been going on inside of me since my early upbringing. You follow what I'm saying? All right, but here's the last thing. Sometimes people can't stop cheating because they're attempting to break out of something that is very painful in their lives. So, for example, loneliness, control, inability to express their voice or use their voice to express themselves. And because they're in circumstances where they don't feel like they have any control, they have no agency over their lives. And that's not true, but it feels that way, right? That they can't use their voice. That's not true, but it certainly feels that way. And that's been their experience. And so, um, sex outside of their marriage or porn addiction, right, becomes a way of trying to anesthetize that pain and get away from the problem that they can't seem to escape, right? This feeling like they're under the control of circumstances, right? Circumstances, right? The circle they're standing in, whether it's a job or whether it's a bad relationship or whether it's a financial situation. And so, in order to sort of stuff that pain away, right, they turn to sex, and their turning to sex is damaging the relationships with the people they say they love and who are trusting them. I hope this is making sense. So the long and short of this is they can stop. It's absolutely possible to stop. They can stop. However, they cannot stop without digging into the root causes. And this is where things like coaching with someone who understands sex addictions, who understand um, family of origin pain, who understand helping people become who they were designed to be. And so, whether you go get it in a group, whether you go get it with a therapist, whether you work with me, I don't care where you get it. I just hope you get it. You get the help so you can become who you were meant to be, the best version of yourself. And if you are the one who's cheated and it's been on repeat, I just want you to know um, there's a God who's able, who cares about you, who can help you get to a healthy place in your life so your relationships don't have to be torn apart by having cheat on repeat. Hey, I'm Rod Harrison. It was great to be